Nilda Carlson stared at the money in her hand. This was a week's pay, her last week's pay. I will never, ever be able to save enough money to buy a ticket to America. Ah, Nilda, her Moor, Gunnlaug, said softly. Never is a long time. Somehow we will find a way. Nilda stared out the window at the snow drifting down, the flakes float dancing since the wind had given up. Would spring ever come? Each year, winter seemed to take up residence for longer spells. She knew she was being unreasonable. She'd been admonished for that before. Spring always comes. Our Lord ordained it so, and he has heard your cries. He promised he would always listen and answer. How many times had she heard that? But hearing and deep down believing were two entirely different things, as were hearing and answering. Did she believe God heard? Yeah, she had to answer yeah. But she had already learned that sometimes the answer was yes, sometimes no, and sometimes the hardest to deal with, wait. I know how hard you worked. But more, Nilda insisted. The shop is closed. True, Mrs. Roth is too sick and feeble now to keep the store open, and that is a shame. But still, I have no more work. She thought a moment. Perhaps the Negors are hiring. I'm sure I would dislike working for them. No one likes working for them. But the money. Two of her older brothers had stuck it out until something better came along, and now it seemed to be her turn. Yeah, I know. Gunnlaug threw the shuttle on the loom where she was weaving another rug. When finished with one, she always restrung for the next. Slamming the batten vigorously, she forced each strand tightly into place to make the rugs last longer. This one is for you, you know. You will have that done long before I can buy a ticket, that is for certain. Then you will have the first layer in the bottom of the trunk Far and Johan are making for you. Nilda tightened her fists in the folds of her wool skirt, fabric her Moor had woven in years past. Moor eyed her. I have learned that weaving is a good way to work off despair. Throwing the shuttle and slamming the batten in place are good for one's soul, and letting loose your feelings. As is kneading bread. It's nearly time for that. A smile tickled the corners of Nilda's lips, but she clamped her teeth against it. Moor, you make it hard to stay angry.